My brother-in-law is the reason why my husband left me. I don't know what to do now. When I was 38, back in my university days, I crossed paths with my brother-in-law, who was also 38 at the time. Early on, he mustered the courage to ask me out. I declined his invitation. His response wasn't pleasant. He called me names and labeled me as shallow. It wasn't a label I'd ever given myself. Honestly, it was more his awkward behavior that put me off. My best friend brushed off his comments, chalking them up to the frustration of being rejected. Thankfully, after that incident, he left me alone. I barely saw him on campus and never felt uncomfortable around him again. He didn't even give me a second glance. Years flew by, and the next time I saw him was when my younger sister, who was then 28, introduced him as her boyfriend. A decade had passed since that awkward encounter, so I didn't recognize him right away. He seemed irritated that I didn't recall our earlier interaction, accusing me of lying. Our family was a bit wary of him initially, but he seemed to be treating my sister well. She appeared happy, and he was quite well off financially, taking her on trips around the world. He was also kind to our family members. After dating for a year, they tied the knot. Now they have 3 beautiful children together. About 5 years ago, I met my ex-husband, who was 40 at the time. My brother-in-law made a comment that stuck with me, saying I was still as shallow and superficial as I was during my university days. Back then, I brushed it off as a joke. But looking back now, especially after learning some unsettling truths, that comment seems like a significant warning sign I should have paid more attention to. It's strange though. My brother-in-law never seemed to have any issues with my husband. He was always polite and respectful around him. He never really tried to forge a close friendship with us, but we never thought much of it because he's always been a bit of a loner. His general aloofness and lack of close connection with us didn't raise any red flags at the time. We just assumed that was his nature, being a bit of a recluse. But now, reflecting on everything, that comment and his distant demeanor might have been subtle signs of something deeper going on. About a year ago, my world was turned upside down. My husband came home one day, accusing me of cheating on him and claiming he had evidence to back it up. Apparently, a guy had reached out to him, showing explicit photos of me on his phone. This stranger told my husband that he hadn't known I was married when they first got involved, but as soon as he found out, he felt obligated to contact my husband. He even went so far as to apologize. The shocking part, I had never met this man in my life. I was stunned and devastated by the accusation. I tried explaining and defending myself, but nothing I said seemed to convince my husband of my innocence. Despite my pleas and attempts to clarify the situation, my husband chose to believe the stranger's story over mine. He decided to leave me, and now we're in the midst of a pending divorce. It's been a heartbreaking and bewildering experience, especially since I never imagined something like this could happen to us. Just yesterday, I received a message from that same guy who had caused so much turmoil in my life. To my surprise, he was apologizing for his actions. He revealed that he's actually friends with my brother-in-law and proceeded to share years' worth of conversations my brother-in-law had about me. These chats were filled with resentment and bitterness. According to my brother-in-law, I had, in his words, never given him a chance and judged him solely by his looks. He even resorted to calling me names in these conversations. Most of these chats were group messages with his friends, but the majority of the content was shared with this particular guy. It became clear that they had conspired together to orchestrate this whole scheme. Somehow my brother-in-law had managed to gain access to my personal photos. The reason this guy reached out to me now was his growing guilt. Even though my marriage had already crumbled, my brother-in-law's anger and hostility persisted, especially upon learning that I had gone on a date last weekend. This friend felt a pang of remorse, realizing that he hadn't just assisted his friend, but had also unjustly destroyed innocent lives in the process. I'm really grappling with what to do next. Ever since my divorce, my brother-in-law's behavior has shifted noticeably. He seems happier and more sociable than he's ever been, which initially made me think he was just trying to support me through my difficult times. But now, knowing what I do about his involvement in the scheme against me, I see it in a different light. His jokes about me becoming an old maid surrounded by cats used to sound like harmless teasing. Now it's becoming clear that he wasn't joking at all. He genuinely meant those comments, and they seem to be a reflection of his underlying resentment towards me. I'm torn because I don't want to disrupt my sister's happiness. She seems genuinely content with her husband, and I wouldn't want to bring any turmoil into her life. At the same time, I'm not sure if I can keep this information from her. As for my ex-husband, I'm heartbroken that he didn't believe me. I still love him deeply. He's the love of my life. However, his refusal to trust me has left a deep wound. I'm not sure if I can forgive him for that, even though I know he's also a victim in this situation. Part of me thinks he deserves to know the truth for closure, but I'm hesitant to reopen old wounds. I'm feeling incredibly sad and hurt by everything that's unfolded. I apologize for the lengthy post, but I needed to get this off my chest. Update 1. My soon-to-be ex-husband is now aware of everything that's transpired. It turns out the same guy who reached out to me also contacted my husband and came clean about the whole scheme. My husband has decided to come to town this weekend to have a face-to-face conversation with me. After that, I'll likely need to consider taking legal action, if that's an option, and informing my family about the situation. At this point, I believe that exposing my brother-in-law's actions is the best and safest course of action. Should anything more serious occur, at least people will be aware of who is truly to blame. My primary concern right now is ensuring the safety and well-being of my sister and her children. Before revealing everything to them, I want to make sure they're in a safe environment, like meeting them at my parents' house after I've informed my parents about the situation. The photos that were shared were indeed real. They must have been stolen either from my phone or my husband's, as he was the only person I had sent those intimate pictures to. While the pictures didn't show my face, fortunately, I was cautious enough not to include it in any nudes. I'm not sure if I can seek justice given that limitation. It's a challenging and uncertain situation, and I'm not sure what the outcome will be. But I'm determined to do whatever it takes to protect myself and my loved ones from any further harm. Mini update. I'm really at a loss for words right now. My sister is furious with me. She feels that I've tarnished her husband's reputation because my ex has been spreading the news about him and his friend everywhere. Now my brother-in-law is even talking about wanting to end his own life, blaming me for ruining it all because of what he calls a joke he played on me. My parents were the ones who initially told my sister everything on the day the truth came out. At first, she seemed to believe me and was on my side. However, something has changed, and she's turned against me now. She's refusing to listen to anything I have to say. I really wish I could have had a moment to speak with her privately before all this chaos unfolded. It's heartbreaking to see our relationship strained like this, especially when all I wanted was to protect her and her children from any potential harm. The situation has become even more complicated and emotionally charged, and I'm not sure how to mend the rift that has formed between us. Comment 1. He's been actively looking for jobs in our town with the intention of moving back. When I found out, I couldn't help but feel anxious and wondered if he was doing this because of me. We're no longer together, and it didn't seem like the right time for him to put pressure on me. However, he reassured me that he's making this move for himself and not to seek anything from me. He mentioned that he doesn't want to leave town, fearing that my brother-in-law might see him as an easy target for further harm. As for his new relationship, I didn't bring it up. It felt inappropriate to grill him about his personal life, especially since we're no longer together. Maybe his new relationship isn't that serious, or perhaps she's open to relocating with him. I really don't know the details. I've consulted with lawyers about the situation, but they don't seem to think that there's much legal ground to pursue. It's a complex and uncertain situation all around, and I'm still trying to navigate through it while protecting myself and those I care about. Comment 2. Yes, he told me that he felt he couldn't just stand by and let my brother-in-law think I was an easy target. He believed that the police wouldn't intervene effectively, and people like my brother-in-law need to be exposed because they care so much about their public image. While he seems to understand my perspective to some extent, he doesn't fully grasp the position my sister was put in as a result of his actions. He has apologized quite a bit, especially when he saw how upset and distraught I was over everything that happened. However, I'm not sure if his apologies are genuine or if he's only saying sorry because he sees how much his actions have hurt me. I get the sense that he doesn't truly regret what he did. He's been expressing sadness and remorse, apologizing for not believing me and for not trusting his own instincts that initially believed my side of the story. Since my ex confronted my brother-in-law at his place, my brother-in-law hasn't bothered me again. But this has only made my sister angrier with me. It's a complicated and emotionally charged situation, and I'm trying my best to navigate through it while maintaining some semblance of peace and safety for myself and my loved ones. Comment 3. Well, it looks like that relationship is over. To be honest, I'm not sure it was ever really that serious to begin with. I had heard some rumors about him having a girlfriend, but I didn't know the specifics, so I might have assumed it was more serious than it actually was. Now that he's moving back, I haven't heard anything about someone moving with him. It's all a bit unclear at this point. We still talk on the phone every day, which is nice. However, I don't want to pry too much into his personal life, especially since we're no longer together. I try to focus on our current conversations and not dig too deep into what's going on with him romantically. It's a delicate balance, trying to maintain a friendship while respecting boundaries and not overstepping. Update 2. I'm really sorry for being absent for so long, but I've been overwhelmed by everything that's been going on. I've been dealing with a lot of pain and stress due to the situation with my brother-in-law. Despite all the challenges, I'm truly grateful for the support I've received from all of you here. It means a lot to me that some of you are still checking in on me and asking about how I'm doing. I want to set the record straight about my relationship with my brother-in-law. For those of you who might think he has feelings for me, let me be clear, he doesn't. Ever since I rejected him, he's harbored a strong dislike for me. Hate can be just as powerful a motivator as love, if not more so. So, to those who have been making hurtful comments or mocking me for supposedly bragging about a man not getting over me for 20 years, you've got it all wrong. If you think that's something to brag about, then I'm sorry, but you've completely missed the point. It's disheartening to hear that such comments were made, especially when I'm going through such a tough time. I was even sent some of these hurtful remarks from another subreddit, and all I can say is, what a bunch of losers. It's really disappointing to see people making light of a situation that has caused me so much pain and distress. I've been living in constant fear, worrying that my brother-in-law might lash out at my sister because of me. I can't say for sure if he would actually do something like that, but that fear has made me more cautious and hesitant to act. That's why some might see me as apathetic or indecisive in this situation. It's hard to know the right steps to take when dealing with someone like him, especially when he's been so good at hiding his true feelings and intentions for so long. I've been trying to protect my sister and her children from becoming collateral damage in all of this. That's why I've been so careful and cautious in my actions and decisions. I know it might be disappointing to some of you that I'm not coming across as the strong, badass woman who takes immediate action, but I have other priorities right now. My main focus is on ensuring the safety and well-being of my family, and I'm doing the best I can to navigate this difficult situation while keeping that in mind. I finally had a chance to sit down and talk with my sister. I love her and her children deeply, and it was really important to me to make sure she knew that. She seemed to be going through a lot, understandably questioning her entire marriage and life choices. I tried to approach the conversation gently, taking baby steps to show her that I'm there for her no matter what. I was honest with her about my concerns regarding her and her children being with someone like her husband. For a while, it seemed like my approach was working, and there was hope for a better understanding between us. But something shifted, and I suspect it had something to do with her husband issuing an ultimatum: choose between her marriage or her family. In the end, she chose her marriage, which was heartbreaking for both my parents and me. It's a tough situation to accept, especially when we feel like her decision might have been influenced or even coerced by her husband. Despite everything, there's a part of me that holds on to hope. Maybe she knows her husband better than we do, and perhaps he's a different person when he's with his family. It's a small glimmer of hope, but it's what I'm clinging to right now. However, her recent message to us was quite harsh. She asked us to forget that she and her children even exist and warned that they would take legal action if we ever tried to reach out to them. It's a painful situation to be in, but I respect her decision, even if I don't understand or agree with it. My brother-in-law seems to be facing some consequences for his actions. He's deleted all his social media accounts, and from what I've heard, his friends have distanced themselves from him as well. It seems like he's become somewhat of an outcast, with people wanting nothing to do with him. I've heard rumors that he's considering leaving the city altogether. It seems like the news about what he did has spread, and he's having a tough time dealing with the fallout. He's become quite reclusive, rarely leaving the house these days. Even at work, it seems like he's facing some shame and possibly even repercussions for his actions. It's a situation of his own making, and while it's not pleasant to see anyone go through a hard time, it's hard to feel sympathy for someone who has caused so much pain and distress to others. My ex-husband and I are moving forward with the divorce process. While I don't blame him for believing the rumors initially, I do wish he knew me better than to think I would ever betray him like that. It's tough knowing he moved back hoping we might reconcile, but I just can't go back to how things were. He's apologized countless times and reassured me that he never fully believed the rumors. However, it's made me realize that perhaps our marriage wasn't as strong as we both thought it was. I always believed our love was strong enough to withstand any challenge, but maybe we were both mistaken. It's nobody's fault, but it's a painful realization to come to. A few weeks before all this drama unfolded, I started dating someone new. After over a year of struggling to even get out of bed, this new relationship has been a source of comfort and support. He's been incredibly patient and understanding throughout all of this, which has meant the world to me. He knows everything that's happened, and he's prepared in case my brother-in-law decides to cause more trouble. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I have a real shot at happiness. Thank you so much for taking the time to read through all of this. Your support means more to me than you'll ever know. Thank you again for being there for me during this difficult time.